Welcome to another episode of the Save Yourself podcast. Today, I am so excited to have my friend and now business partner, Todd Stottlemyre. If you don't know Todd, I'm going to do an official intro because I probably wouldn't do it justice if I just did it myself. But he is a World Series pitcher, former, not current, and an entrepreneur. And he is someone that I met through his wife because I had worked with her as one of my wellness clients for like a year and a half. And then we became friends as a family. And we had many, many talks about nutrition and health, wellness, mindset. And one of the things that Todd talks about for his mindset work and what he coaches on, I actually incorporated into my life. So I want to share that with you. So we'll talk about health. We're going to talk about our new electrolyte drink, Happy Healthy Hydration, and why we created it and what it actually does. We will talk about some of his mindset tips, including the championship statement and just all about health and nutrition. I can't wait for you to be a part of this one. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you. So fun to be here.
I'm going to do your official bio just so anyone who doesn't know you yet can learn a little bit more about you. Okay. So Todd Stottlemyre is a former MLB pitcher. He's a high-performance business coach. He's a best-selling author, a keynote speaker, a business owner, active investor, and advisor to multiple companies, including a fast casual poke concept. Each day, he works to help his clients achieve unparalleled success in every dimension of their lives. And I can tell you that from meeting you and from meeting Erica, I can definitely tell you that I have up-leveled my life in several ways, which we'll get into. And I hope we continue this partnership and we'll tell everyone about this new hydration drink that I think is a game changer.
Well, I'm excited about the drink, but I got to say that, you've truly leveled up not just Erica's life, but after working with her for a year on wellness and nutrition, but obviously that carried over to me. So I was the benefactor of great meals and great nutrition, but not just me. We have 5 kids and, the entire family really is incorporated the Dr. Amy routines and nutrition and wellness. And I love that the work you do because it's all about us taking responsibility for really saving ourselves. And so many times, people are out there and it's like, whether it's like, look, at the end of the day, politics isn't going to save us. The FDA is not going to save us. The grocery stores are not going to save us. We have a responsibility. We should be taking the responsibility for ourselves to learn and to adjust and to do the things that feel good, right? It's like we talk so much about the foods we eat, and it's like, well, how do you feel after eating those foods? And I always think back, and especially after listening to you, I always think back Thanksgiving dinner, and it's like, look, I'm the guy at Thanksgiving that doesn't have 1 plate or 2 plates. I continue to fill that plate up and probably with all the wrong stuff. And then of course, after dinner, get on the couch, take the nap. We got a football game on to wake up to dessert, right? And I think, and it's like, how do we feel after all of that food and all of those different foods? And the whole idea of food is to perform. And I love the whole, eating to perform and eating for wellness and eating things. And, you were kind enough to come to our house on an occasion and we took all the food out of the refrigerator. We took all the food out of the cabinets. I'll never forget this. It was life-changing for me because I was an advocate of always wanting to go get all these different protein bars and this and that. And you separated foods in A, B, and C. And A, eat as much as you like. B, eat occasionally. C, never. And when I seen the C's never, it was like everything that I accumulate at the grocery store. So it was definitely life-changing for us. We appreciate you. Obviously, I appreciate our partnership, but more importantly than the partnership, our friendship.
I love that. And, when I say save yourself, some people will say, but what about faith? What about, people helping you? I mean all of that. So when you put in the work, you get the knowledge, you get the right people around you, you have faith in what you're doing, you understand that you have certainty that this is going to work out. That's what I mean by saving yourself. It's like not waiting for someone to do the work for you, to kind of lead you or carry you to your goals. It's actually, you have to do the work. You have to have the faith. You have to find the people in your corner. You have to know what your body, like have body literacy. and then you can save yourself.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, for sure.
So tell us, obviously we're going to talk more about the hydration drink, and I think I should introduce it to people right away. I think we've kind of introduced it a little bit, but I wanted this to be the official kind of dive deep into what this actually can do for us. Okay, so the reason we created this is to give people an option for hydration that didn't have as much sodium as the typical hydration drinks. Because if you have more than one a day, you're going to put yourself in, get way too much sodium for someone who is not a marathoner, ultra marathoner. Number two, we wanted something with happy probiotics in it, something that can help our mood. So it's like doing two things at once. So it's hydrating you, but it's also boosting your mood. And then we want something with pure ingredients, like none of that crap. And of course, it has to taste good. I mean, it tastes delicious.
Right. I agree.
What do you think? What do you think is the best part of it?
I think the best part of it is that, I think you mentioned it, is you don't have to be a marathoner. You don't have to be someone that's running around outside and sweating and working out all the time. I think that what we've done is we've created a drink that for the just average person, it's a healthy drink to drink. It's crazy that, and I've had friends and people reach out to me and they're, they've gotten the drink and then they've tried it. And then like a day later, they're like, wow, this is great. This works. And I'm kind of like, what do you mean works? And they go, I feel so good. And through my reflection, I was like, wow, so many people are walking around dehydrated. So when they actually hydrate themselves properly without all of the sugar, without the excess sodium, and then you mix in the probiotics and all the healthy benefits with the no sugars, no preservatives, and, none of the crap that's in it. And it's like, and you drink it and you hydrate yourself properly. Well, if you're hydrated, you're probably going to have more energy. You're thinking clearer, your brain is working differently. So I can see now when someone says, Todd, I started on the drink and it works and I feel so much better, because, at first I was like, what do you mean it works? Like, I need you to give a testimony. But at the same time, it's like, most people don't realize that they're lacking hydration or that they're fighting dehydration. And we can be fighting dehydration and not even know it, right?
Yeah.
Because most people just don't consume enough liquids.
And the other thing is that I think so many of us are used to sports hydration drink, even the big new popular ones like Prime and obviously the old ones like Gatorade and all these things that we see in the grocery store. They're orange and they taste like, sodas. And you think of these as like healthy drinks. But when you look at the ingredients, it's insane. The number of additives and colors and flavors. And I think there is room for newer options that people who care about their health. Maybe there are people who love the Primes and it's amazing. But there are also people that are like, I want something that tastes good, but doesn't have a lot of that other stuff in it.
Absolutely. And then the safety of knowing that you can drink it every day, right?
Right.
And that it's actually good for you. And I think that's, it's kind of like, you have destroyed me at a grocery store because it's like, I go and I'm like, oh, look at that. And I'll pick it up and then I'll look at all the ingredients and I'm like, oh, what would Dr. Amy say? She'd say, put that back, so.
I mean, I'll have to be honest. I have my moments too. We can't live in this. 75% of the grocery store is ultra processed. I mean, you'd be shocked at how many times I take my kids to Chipotle or to, all these. Well, Chipotle's maybe the better one. Coquito Poke's a better one. Like these are good options, but Taco Bell, for example, like we have one across the street from us, right? So it's not, I don't expect you or anybody to live a perfect life because I'm not living a perfect life either. I think it's just knowing that, hey, we kind of by default eat 65 to 75% ultra processed. That's what studies show. Like kids more like 75% ultra processed, adults more like 65, especially old school adults. But if we can move the needle a little bit and not do, like, instead of buying the pasta from a frozen section, maybe just making it, it's not that much more work.
I think that's the key, and I think you nailed it. It's not what we're doing on every meal every day. It's what do we do consistently, because what we do consistently ultimately adds up, right? So if you eat unhealthy consistently, well, you shouldn't expect to live healthy. So at the end of the day, it's not there's nothing wrong with being human, right? Being normal. And my normalcy is every once in a while, I just think about, and as crazy as it is, it's like, geez, McDonald's sounds pretty good today. And it's not like, I should put myself in timeout for having a cheat meal or
exactly.
whatever. But it's like, it's not about perfection. It's about what are we doing consistently? It's kind of like if you worked out once a week, you shouldn't expect to be in great fitness, right? It's what are we doing consistency, and by adding up consistency, it's really who we become. So for an example, and I know there's some people, in the great fight, but if you think about the people that are the alcoholics, right? What have they done consistently? Well, what have they repeated daily? Well, through repetition of having drinks daily, they found out that potentially they might have a problem. And by the way, there are circumstances that come and there are things that come with those problems. So, but we can go 180 degrees from there and say, well, what if from a consistent basis, we're eating healthy or we're working out, consistently? How does that add up? Because at the end of the day, whatever we repeatedly do on a daily basis, that's what we achieve and that's who we become.
Yeah, I think that's the power of like morning routines or having non-negotiables. Like my non-negotiables include exercise and nature time every day and having at least 1 to 2 healthy meals a day, right? Even when I'm traveling, which is hard, by the way. Now that I'm traveling so much more, I realize how hard it is to stay with those 1 to 2 healthy meals, because I was in Minneapolis day before yesterday, and there was a huge tornado, and we couldn't go to the restaurant we were planning to, and we had to eat at the hotel. And I was like, well, there goes my one healthy meal, because we had worked all day. But I picked, good enough choices to keep it healthy. But it's really hard. So you have to have those non-negotiables. And one of the things that has become one of my non-negotiables is something I wanted to spotlight on this podcast because it comes from you. So I had learned a few years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, to get sunlight first thing in the morning, to not look at my phone. So sky before screens, which is game changer, sky before screens. So meaning that you're going to look at the sky, walk outside just for a few minutes, maybe while brushing your teeth before you look at your phone. And, if you're a parent like me, sometimes I have to look to make sure there's no emergency text on my screen. And then I put it away. I don't go into my emails. I don't go into social media. I'm just, walking, going to the bathroom, brushing my teeth, and then walking outside. Sky before screens. And then I decided that that's the time I want to do all my skincare and vitamins. And then that's also the time that I decided to start journaling. But for a full couple of years, I wasn't really sure what to journal about. And I would skip that part often. And I'd just listen to a podcast or I'd read something. But you taught me something on one of your master classes that actually really helped me. And it's a championship statement. And I want everyone to know about the championship statement because I honestly think it's a game changer. And it's already changed. And I'll write a testimonial for you. It's already been a game changer for me because the things that I'm writing on there, I see it slowly getting closer to what I'm writing. And it's insane. So when you explain it, you'll understand what I'm saying. But as you write it every day, you start to see like, oh, wait, I'm getting closer to all of these things that I want for myself. Business, mindset, relationships, fitness, your surroundings, the people you hang out with, all of it. So can you explain to us what that is?
So, it started out for me really 30 years ago. And 30 years ago, I had a subconscious problem. And my subconscious problem was that for over a decade, I lived a lie. And I lived a lie that I told myself. But I didn't tell myself that lie one time. I repeated that thought and I repeated those emotions and I repeated that self-talk to myself over and over for over a decade. And what happened is I became that thought, I became those emotions, and I became that self-talk. The problem was all of that was a lie, but I became that. And then it was... And as I became it, it was planted in my subconscious, right? So when it's planted in your subconscious, because our subconscious, that's where 95% of our habits live and 95% of our day lives. We live subconsciously. It's like, you think about like when you wake up in the morning, you kind of have the same routine. You think about brushing your teeth, for an example. You don't think consciously about brushing your teeth. Now maybe when you were a little kid, your parents gave you the breath test and they're like, did you brush your teeth? And then they force you to go back to the sink before you go to school. But over time, there was a day, because you had repeated it enough, that it just became a habit. And when it became a habit, you no longer need willpower. You don't need your mom and dad to give you the breath test. You just do it, but you do it on automaticity. Well, if that's the way it works, good, bad, or indifferent, it's about the things that we repeat over and over and over that really implant and drive into our subconscious, because we're habitual human beings. That means that change, and anything that I want to change, I just have to repeat. So if I think about change, or I think about the things that I want and what do I want to achieve, what is it? What kind of father do I want to be? What kind of husband do I want to be? What kind of spiritual person do I want to be? How do I want a vacation? What are the things I want to achieve in business? What kind of health and fitness do I want to? Well, I had to take time out and discover, what is it that I truly want? And then the championship statement is writing those things that I want to achieve in my life, or not just achieve, but who do I want to become? And I write those things in present tense as if I already have achieved those and I've already become that person. Now, I don't write it one time, set it in a drawer, forget about it, because that's not going to drive it into my subconscious. It's not going to make me who I am. It's not going to make me a habitual person to that statement. But if I write it literally every single day, pretty soon I'll be writing it from memory. Oh, my subconscious memory, because it'll know exactly what to write next. But not only as I write it, as I read it, as I visualize it, as I feel this championship statement, the how-to no longer matters, because the how-to starts to show up in your life through this awareness. We were talking earlier. It's kind of like name your favorite car. And if maybe your favorite car is a red Porsche, and it's like that's the thing that you want in your life. That's your dream car. And once you identify the dream car, drive around the roads, you're going to see red Porsches everywhere. But wait a minute, they already existed. So everything that we want already exists. What we need to do is identify it, repeat, literally writing it, reading it, feeling it, but then intentionally taking steps towards that championship statement. The behaviors of every sentence in that championship statement are so important, but they now become intentional behaviors. And as we take on and as we progress through these intentional behaviors towards that championship statement, the how-to starts to be uncovered. We start to discover the how-to. Because think about it. If you knew how to get everything you wanted, wouldn't you already have it?
Yeah.
Of course. But a lot of times people will get hung up, and they'll get hung up on the how-to. And they say, Todd, but I just don't know how. Like, what do? I say, just do something. Just do something, because as you do something, it might even be the wrong something. The beauty of it is you identify the things that don't work on your way to uncovering the things that will potentially work, potentially be the right behaviors so that you can actually achieve that statement. But it's really about it. At the end of the day, it's about our subconscious. It's about our habits. And good and bad habits work both ways, right? If we repeat a bad habit, well, we're going to become that bad habit if we repeat it enough and it actually becomes a habit. So it works both directions. So it's kind of like we need to consciously be conscious about our subconscious. And if we can be conscious about our subconscious, we can allow ourselves to make the changes that we want.
So I remember when you talked about this in your masterclass, you kind of gave us the scenario, and I want you to kind of take us back there. You're at the top of your game. You're on a World Series team. You are a pitcher that's like pretty much people's dream. I mean, there are kids right now who are dreaming of that scenario. And then start there. What happened?
Well, first of all, I grew up in Yankee Stadium, and I say I grew up in Yankee Stadium. It was my playground. My father was a pitcher for the New York Yankees from the mid-'60s to mid-'70s, and 3-time 20-game winner, 5-time All-Star, and 5-time world champion as a coach. And And then growing up in the stadium, I was like, wow, my dad's got the greatest job in the world. This is really cool. He calls that work. He plays a game. And I was like, I want that job someday. So I'd been dreaming from the time I could walk about playing Major League Baseball. Well, then to live it out was a whole nother dream in itself. And not just to live it out, but then to play on world championship teams, and then to make millions of dollars to play the sport. And it was right after the 93 World Series. And, I didn't perform in the 93 World Series like I wanted to, but I also didn't react and respond to the things that were going on around that event. I didn't react and respond. I don't want to say respond. I didn't react the way I wanted to react. And I was just kind of in a place where if you looked at me from the outside, you're just like, wow, here's a kid who grew up with a famous father, was a New York Yankee, lived out his childhood dream. He's now a 2-time world champion. He's making millions of dollars. It's like, that guy has got it all. He gets all the breaks. He's so lucky. What people didn't know is that from the outside, it looked really cool. But from the inside, I was living a very dark and in a very dark place. Because when I looked at the mirror, I could not stand the person looking back at me. Matter of fact, I despised the person. I hated the person looking back at me in the mirror. And that was because 12 years prior to, right after we'd won that World Series, 12 years prior to that, I'd given my little brother a bone marrow transplant. I was 15. He was 11. It was his third bout with leukemia. The doctors deemed it was his only way to live a normal and long life. And my marrow was the one that matched him perfectly of all of our family members. So, I laid down. I gave him a bone marrow transplant. My marrow ultimately put him into a coma. The coma ultimately took his life. And I'll never forget it. It's 2:20 in the morning when he took his last breath. And I remember, I'm good, sorry. I remember standing over his bed, and, traditional sadness for our family was horrible at that time. And I know there's someone listening right now that's maybe they've gone through something similar, or maybe they're hanging on to something similar. But at that very moment, like I hated our maker. I was like, I don't understand. How are you taking my 11-year-old brother from me? But I also had this guilt that washed over me. I had hate, I had guilt, I had sadness. And it was hard for me to look at my parents and look at my family, because it was my marrow was the problem that ultimately put him into a coma. And even though my parents, doctors, and all the people around our family, they're like, Todd, you did everything you could do. Didn't matter. I was a 15-year-old boy. I had a mind of my own. And I was like, you guys can say what you want. And I didn't express this outwardly, but inwardly I was like, this is my fault. I'm guilty. And I had all this hate and guilt and shame in me. Yeah, sadness. My mom and dad had to bury a son, an 11-year-old son. So going through all of that is traditional sadness, but I was carrying other emotions, but I carried the story. See, I told myself it was my fault so many different times. I actually became the killer to my little brother. And it wasn't that leukemia killed him. I killed him. It was my marrow. And when you say that, and when you feel that, as deep as I was feeling it emotionally, right, it then plants inside of you and you'll become that person. And even though it was a lie, that's the person I became. So at the end of 1993, I was just sick and tired of mentally and emotionally landing in the same place. Too many times looking at the ceiling at 3 a.m, asking questions, why? Why am I feeling this way? Why do I think this way? Have an emotional outburst, not only on the field, but off the field in everyday life. And that's when I was like, I need help. And even though I'm living my childhood dream, I'm a 2-time world champion, I'm making millions of dollars, I'm like, I don't like who I am. And I also wanted to up my game on the baseball field. I wanted to become a better pitcher. So I reached out to a guy, his name was Harvey Dorfman, rest in peace, Harvey. He was the guru, the mindset and psychology guru of Major League Baseball. And I reached out to him. I'll never forget. I called him. I said, Harvey, Todd Stottlemyre said, we need to talk. He says, oh, man, I've been waiting on your call. And I'm thinking to myself, I had no idea this guy even knew who I was, right? I'm like, I'm not that big a deal. Why does he know me? But he'd been studying me and he'd been watching me. And we literally got together and was supposed to be a 2-hour meeting, lasted 12 hours. In that 12 hour, I laughed, I cried, I came to my knees, but he also got me and he peeled the onion back. And I'll never forget, he asked me, he said, would you do it again? I said, do what? He said, would you give that bone marrow transplant to him again? I said, man, hard. And I'll never forget, I went to my knees, I bawled like a baby, and I said, I'd do it every second of every minute, of every hour, of every day, of every week, of every month, of every year. I'd do it. He goes, man, let me ask you something, Todd. Didn't you already do it? I said, yeah. He said, did you do everything you could do? I said, yeah. He said, man, it's time to forgive. He says, it's time to let it go. He said, Todd, you're not God. He says, you didn't take his life. You gave everything you could, but yet you're destroying yourself today because of that event. He says, really what you're doing is you're blocking God's blessing for your life because you're still living 12 years ago and you're still taking the blame and you've yet to forgive yourself and just let it go. So my message is very simple today. It's like there is things we're carrying around every single day. We're struggling with them. Sometimes we don't even know we're struggling with them because they're buried in the subconscious, and that's the person we've become. Think about all of our reactions. Our reactions are nothing more than unsettled things on the inside of us that we've yet to forgive, we've yet to heal, we've yet to overcome, and we've yet to challenge that subconscious. And that's the power of the championship statement. It's like we have choice. We have the power of choice of our reactions, of our responses, of our thoughts, of our emotions, of our words. We have power of choice of the people we hang out with. We have power of choice of everything and every action we take. And what I'm telling people today is take responsibility and take your power back and start making the choices you want to make instead of something that happened yesterday that's still controlling us.
So out of all the things...
That's a mouthful.
No, love it. Thank you for sharing and thank you for going deep because that's really, really impactful. Out of all the things that he worked with you on, what were the things that you still do or that you took away that changed your life?
He put me on a 7-day challenge and it was pretty crazy because it was the off season, so I didn't have to pitch in a game. But he said, Todd, you're not allowed to compete. I'm like, man, I compete at everything. I want to play golf and it doesn't matter if we're going to play checkers. I'm not going to play to lose. I'm going to play to win. So I go, well, what do you mean I can't compete? He says, you can't go to battle against your emotions. I was like, I don't understand. He says, here's what I want you to do. For the next 7 days, anytime something bothers you or you start to feel different emotionally, your state starts to change, but it's a state that you don't like. Maybe it's an aggravated state. Maybe it's a state of anxiety, overwhelm, depression, fear. Maybe it's one of anger. He says, I need you to stop yourself from reacting. And what I need you to do is document that expression. And then I want you to document, what are you thinking about while you're in this state? What are you feeling? And he says, Todd, if you'll document this, if you do this for 7 days, at the end of 7 days, what we're going to do is we're going to walk through every time you had one of those state changes or emotional breakdowns, and we're going to begin to build tools. Well, the biggest takeaway from that was I found myself, and I don't know if there's any control freaks out there, but it's like I found myself, the things I couldn't control aggravated me the most. And he would say, well, why would you focus on something you can't control? He says, you see, Todd, we need to switch your focus. And we came up with a tool called the 180-degree mindset. It's like focus on the things, the controllables, the things that I can control, and move away from what's already happened and get present with this breath. Now, I'm going to say that again. I'm talking about this breath. not 10 breaths ago, not one sentence ago, not one conversation ago, not one day ago, 1 week ago, 1 year ago. No, get present with right now, this very breath. And as your feet become present with where you are, what is it that you can control? Where should your focus be? And we came up with what's important right now. Like, what can I do? What's important right now that I can control? And so many times it's outside environments are trying to steal our control. The outside is trying to steal our day and our choices and our decisions and all the work, all the success and all the work. Real life and real peace and real joy is an inside-out game. It's not an outside-in game. We're not going to gain happiness because something out there. We're going to gain happiness because of something in here. And it's a date. Listen, 30 years ago, it's 30 years of me working on it. Do I struggle today with it? Yeah, of course. Do I break down? Do I make mistakes? Do I react where I shouldn't react? Of course. The beauty is he's given me a tool chest and trainings and a mindset that instead of something bothering me for an hour, maybe a minute, instead of a day, maybe an hour, and then a tool chest and getting quiet with ourselves, taking walks in nature with no phones, with no technology. I mean, when's the last time someone's gone on a walk and actually heard the birds chirp? Wow. Man, it's so powerful. Because you start to get centered with yourself. And that's a whole nother joy in itself.
So when you went to Harvey and you did this in the off season, is that when you started to do the championship statement?
It is.
Okay. And how long have you been doing that?
30 years.
Every day?
So no.
Okay. Tell us about that.
Once again, I'm human.
Yeah.
It's like I would do it in patterns, right? And here's what's funny. Is how many times do we do something that works and then we achieve what we want to achieve, and then we get away from the process in which we got there?
Yeah.
I'm guilty too. I can't tell you how many times that I've had this process and will achieve the things. And it's been a quiet process. It's been a lot of mornings, right? And a lot of morning routines. And then I'll achieve it. And then I grow human all over again, and I become comfortable with where I'm at, and then I start to get away with how I got there and the processes. And then usually what happens is I fall off the backside of the mountain all the way to the bottom and lay on my back and look back up again, and then go back into a deep reflection. And what do I need to do to pick myself back up and climb this mountain again? Oh yeah, let me get back to things like morning routines and quiet time and breathing and daily walks and championship statements and constantly affirming the thoughts that I want to have and the self-talk. I mean, look, the self-talk is the only time that you should talk more than you listen is when you're talking to yourself quietly. That's when, and the reason I say you should talk more to yourself than you listen to yourself is because if we listen to ourselves, we're going to tell us, I'm too tall, I'm too short, I'm too skinny, I'm too fat, I'm out of shape, I don't have the skills, other people's, all the things, all the negativity is going to show up. I need to overcompensate that, and I need to affirm that I can do it. I'm good enough. I'm fast enough, strong enough, tall enough, small enough, big enough, whatever it is, but I'm enough. So if we'll talk to ourselves with the right conversations, we actually need to talk more to ourselves than we actually listen. It's the only time we should talk more than we listen.
Why? You've already climbed your mountain. People just talk about climbing to the mountain. Coibito Poki, HHH, these are like your second and third mountains. Why?
Yeah, I love progress. I love to get better. I love challenges. Comfort for me, is dying on your feet. It's like, and all of those other things, those companies, those things, it's not about me anymore. It's about, can I help someone else? So I think about our electrolyte drink. It's like, wouldn't it be great if it's massively successful? But at the end of the day, why though? Well, because we would be helping people live healthier lives. Healthier lives. Isn't that cool? And then I think about Coibito Poki. I can help people actually eat healthier meals and yet still enjoy the quick service and be on the run. Well, I think that that's cool, but it's even deeper than that. How about the people who are going to walk along or climb this mountain with us? What are they going to get from it? What are they going to learn from it? And I think about the young kids, my daughter and her husband are in this studio right now, and they're 21, 22, 23 years old. And I think that they get to be a part of these companies, but they've taken leadership roles in these companies. So my whole thing for me today is not about what I can achieve, is how can I help other people achieve more than they think is possible. So I always say I want all of my kids, and it really starts with my family, because in order to be a leader, I better be able to lead my own kids, my own family first. And I always tell them, I'm like, look, I don't know everything, but I want you to get everything I know. I haven't experienced everything, but I want you to get every experience I've had, and I want you to take those lessons, and then I want you to stand on top of my head and use it as a trampoline to pole vault you to the level of success that you deserve, because I want you to know there are no impossibles. And my goal for my kids and my family is not to have half the success I've had in my life, or anybody I'm working with in my inner circle, or any of my programs, or any of the people I coach. I don't want them to have the success I had. I want them to have 10 times the success I've ever had. And I want them to have less heartache along the way. Because if you're pushing and climbing mountains constantly and pursuing, you're going to go through pain, you're going to go through struggle. But all of the roses are on the other end of the pain and struggle. And it's like, I just want to help people get through it so that they can understand there is no such thing as impossible. For someone to tell me, they say, Todd, that's impossible. I say, that's a lie. Everything's possible.
It's funny because every time I create a post or do a podcast or put anything out there, I always think to myself, how can this help them see their gifts? So it's giving knowledge, but it's really not giving knowledge. It's helping someone see their own gifts, or like take their own life and elevate it. Because if you're not doing that with every single thing that you are putting out there, then what's the point? So like, I think on social media, for example, there's a lot of confusion. A lot of people think that you're posting for yourself. Like, hey, look at me, look at my stuff, look at my car, look at my house, look at my success. But I realize like, that's not really helpful. Yes, it could be motivational to some, but it's really not helpful. Really what's helpful is for you to show them what their gift or their potential is to elevate their life. And every time I go through that lens, or sometimes I'll say, actually, I'm not going to post that, or I'm not going to talk about that, because I really don't think it fits through that lens, because that's the whole point, right?
Well, let me say, Dr. Amy, you're an angel roaming around this right now, because you're rare. And it's why I think that you've been such an influence in changing people. Look, you're changing people's lives you're not even aware of today. And, it's funny because a lot of times, whether it's nutrition or an ingredient or something, or a meal or a way of life, sunlight and walks, and I can't tell you how many times we'll go through the day inside my house and they'll say, well, I wonder what Dr. Amy would think. What would she say about this? And we're always like, text her, let's find out. But
usually I'm like, no, that's such like full of crap, or
you do such an amazing job, because all of your messaging is not for your benefit, it's for the benefit in the eyes of the beholder. And it's like, there's so many things on social media that are, and I don't want to get into all the negativity, but how many times has someone stood in front of an airplane that's never actually gotten on that airplane, or stood in front of a car that actually doesn't have the keys to that car, or stood in front of a house who doesn't own that house, but they're trying to look away. And then what do you find out? They're trying to sell something. And I think that that's what makes you so special, is because all of your posts is not about you selling something. It's about something that they can do today to actually rescue and better their lives. And for me, that makes you an angel. Like, you're literally a social media angel.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but I think what my goal is, my parents came here when I was almost 5 years old, and they came here specifically because I was their only child and I was a girl. And they were like, in this country that we are from, women often don't get the opportunities. They don't get to do the things they really want to do, for better or for worse. And they thought that coming to America, I would get opportunities that my family, my community, and my ancestors never got. And so I always thought to myself, well, when I start to get into this world of nutrition and gut health, like, that's really my role is, hey, I have this opportunity to kind of reflect on and show you things that can like elevate your life. And that's something that I might not have gotten to do if I was still back in India. And maybe I would have, who knows, right? But that responsibility is what kind of keeps me going to help people. Again, it's not me telling them what to do. I don't tell you what to do. Yeah. I just want you to see what's possible with all of this. Because I know nature, we're the crazy people that walk around in the neighborhood on our phones. We're the crazy people who are like asking for all the substitutions, or you're the crazy person who's probably like, hey, I want Coivito Poke to have this. And we are the crazy people who created the HHH, and they were like, what binder, what do you want to, make it last longer on shelves and dissolve quicker in water? Right. And one of the complaints is that it doesn't dissolve as quick in water. And it's because we didn't put anything in there to make it dissolve quick, because all of that stuff on the shelf has stuff that makes it colorful, makes it dissolve quick, makes it taste super sweet. And we didn't want to put any of that in there.
Yeah, I mean, I laugh because it's like the feedback, and I don't want to say complaint.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, I put it in my water, it didn't dissolve. I'm like, shake it up.
Yeah.
Do you want me to come to your house and shake it for you and stir it for you and drink it for you and feel good for you? It's like, but this is where we're at in time and society, and it's where it's like, wow, it's like, and people pointing fingers and blame games and all of this stuff. And it's like, and that's why I like, never in time, in my opinion, do we need to take more responsibility for our thoughts, our emotions, our actions, our reactions, our intentions, our mornings, our family. I need to take more responsibility as a father, as a husband. I need to do those things, not for everyone out there to judge, because actually one of those rare people that just doesn't care what people think about my dreams and goals and my life and how I live it. And, it's but at the same time, it's like, the thought that, it doesn't dissolve, or I don't like the color, or
the package. We don't like the package. We're working on that, right?
The package sucks. We think it sucks too. Congratulations, but we will fix it.
Yeah.
And look, when you're building a new company, whether it's a new product or this and that, anything that where you start, that's not as good as you're ever going to be. It's only as good as you are at that time. The beauty is as we grow, as we get better, as we get feedback, as we think more, as we look at it, as we reflect on it, as we give it a different perspective, it's the opportunity to grow and actually get better. So as we get better, the product gets better, the packaging gets brought better. Hey, you're only going to have to stir it twice, not 20 times for it to dissolve. Whatever it is, but we'll get better.
Yeah.
And, and the challenge and the feedback, look, I love the feedback, and I know you love the feedback. Just like, bring it on. It's like, hey, all of this feedback, it's like you're pouring into our greatness. You're pouring into the greatness of the product for someone else. So we appreciate the feedback.
I think getting feedback is really important. And I think also for people out there who are entrepreneurs, like, I think with my chai products and with the HHH, what's most important is that people like the product. So if your product sucks, you have to go back to square one. Luckily for us, for HHH, the formulation is amazing and it tastes great and it works. A lot of times what happens is people launch a product, they put $1 million Facebook ads, they do all the marketing, they get the packaging right, but the product sucks.
Yeah.
And you can market it, you can change the package, you can make it cheaper, you can run Amazon ads, but it doesn't matter because you can only go so far with your marketing if your product sucks. So I feel like it's better to get that part right and make sure we feel fully confident in the ingredients and what it does for people, that it will hydrate you, that'll make you happier, that it doesn't have all the crap to make you dehydrated and sad later. And then we can get the rest of it right.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just looking at a story. A guy I really, truly respect, big-time entrepreneur. He's made hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in companies. And he created a product and he got celebrity endorsement. And,
yes.
And they had this explosion in sales. And then all of a sudden, all of the sales went right off the cliff and fell all the way down to the bottom of the mountain floor. And he's like, man, what happened? And they realized the product sucks and tastes terrible, right? But it was after spending the tens of millions of dollars in a product launch and advertising and celebrity endorsement and all these things to just get to a place where it's like no one wants to drink the product because it tastes bad. And that's the beauty. It's like right now, it's like, we're in this launch of it, with a single flavor. We both have big vision of where this is going to go, and it's not going to just be an electrolyte drink someday, and there will be added in other things. And I love what you said because I wish I could take credit for all the ingredients, but I can't. But you can, and you really had kind of a mission of the ingredients of Triple H. And I love what you said. I called you one night and I said, Dr. Amy, I got another idea. And you were probably like, oh, dear God, we haven't even launched this one yet. And I was like, well, what do you think about this? And she says, and I will never forget what you said. And it kind of stopped me in my tracks. And it reminded me something, a lesson I got from my father. And he said, if you want to speed up, slow down. But what you said was on this particular phone call, Todd, we're not putting anything out unless it's gold standard. And I went, wow, thank God Dr. Amy's my partner. Because I would have already, in this short frame of time, I've been like, I would have already, we would already have a dozen different flavors and change this and change. I'd have been doing all these different things, but it's like, not only have you focused on the ingredients, but it's like the process to scale. And by the way, we will scale it.
Oh, yeah. And
it'll be fun.
The great thing about getting feedback from a first round about the taste and all of the things, the mixability, the convenience of it, we take all that and we make the second round better. We make the second flavor even better. So that's the way that we want to do it. But I also, when you talk about gold standard, this is the thing. There's not enough people that have a nutrition background that are creating nutrition products. So if we know all the big brands and they're doing it based on profit, taste. If anything, profit and taste are the two things they're basing it on. Yeah. None of them are thinking, oh, well, this could actually make you happier or this could make you healthier. Like this could improve your health in other ways. So more people like that who are thinking through that lens instead of what can make us the most money fastest and what can get people addicted to it so that they'll buy more.
Well, I had a big retailer do a taste test against the product that they sell, and I'm not going to mention who the retailer was, but I loved the feedback. And they said, well, we did a floor taste with our employees, and we actually liked the taste of the product that we have currently. And I was like, wow. Do you like the 40 grams of sugar? Do you like all the preservatives and all the crap that's in there? And it's like, it's more than a taste test. But I loved the feedback that said, we love that. So, of course, what did I do? I went out and bought it, and we're going to do a taste test. And it's going to be so fun because I'm actually going to do blind taste tests.
Oh, good.
With a series of people. And my 9-year-old is like, Dad, I want to do the taste test. And I'm like, I'm scared for her to do the taste test. But you know what? We'll be honest and authentic about it. And I might even do it on a live so people know I didn't mess with the video.
Yeah,
just run it, see what happens. But at the end of the day, I think that what we're both really saying is that we can handle constructive criticism about a company that we formulated, that we're going to build and we're going to scale. And we're okay with constructive criticism and the opinions and what people think about, from packaging to steerability to the taste to the products, to the nutrients and the ingredients that are in the product. It's like, hey, we're open to constructive criticism because we didn't say this is the single best drink in the world yet. We said that's what we're pursuing, though. Mm-hmm. We're pursuing not just the best electrolyte drink, but we're going to pursue the greatest health drink so that when you drink it, you're not destroying something else, right? So at the end of the day, greatness is what we're striving for, which is, reminds me, and to close on the thought, was to discover greatness is really to prepare and with everything you've got, and to go out then and perform with everything you've got, knowing failure's a possibility. And if you're truly willing to do that, that'll be the day you'll discover your greatness.
Love that.
And not until.
Love it. So I encourage everybody who's listening or watching to go ahead and just try one. Try a sample. We have like all these discounts for people to just give us feedback. Try it, give us feedback. We can take it. Yeah. Good, bad. We're open. If it works for you, if it doesn't work for you, if you like it, you don't like it, your packaging, flavor, everything. I want to ask you, because I'm sure people are wondering. Now, your dad was a very famous baseball pitcher.
Correct.
Your brother was also a very famous pitcher?
Yeah, he played Major League Baseball with the Kansas City Royals, and today he's the pitching coach for the Miami Marlins.
Amazing. Yeah. So, and then you, of course, with your very, very decorated history, and now your son is on the path. I mean, there are people pursuing a lot of great things in the world, right? If you had to boil it down to maybe a secret or two that you think has been instrumental in maybe your dad's, your brother's, yours, your son's, what is that?
Well, a number of things. Number one, you have to love what you do, right? And, our family's been a part of Major League Baseball every year since 1961.
Wow.
So either my father and my career, coincided with his, and then my brother. So, literally either my brother, myself, or my father has been associated with Major League Baseball since 1961. Well, you better love doing it, or the family wouldn't have lasted this long in the sport. So number one, and I'll never forget, there was an American Legion game. I was probably 15, 16 years old. We're walking out of the stadium with my dad, and I'll never forget, my dad said, "Well, did you guys have fun today?" And we're like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Man, I was watching. It didn't look like you guys were having fun out there." And I'll never forget what he said. "If the sport and the game is not fun, don't play." He goes, "Don't play for me." He goes, "Look, if you love it and it's fun, then play." And I've never forgotten that. I was like, wow. My dad watched me perform, and he didn't see the love of the game that I had, so I must be doing it the wrong way. So I would say that you have to love it, number one. Number two is work ethic, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, it's not about, and I tell kids today, it's not about the team practices. It's like, how much are you practicing away from the team on your own work? And look, I was a ballpark rat. I went to Yankee Stadium every day as a kid. I was playing baseball every single day as a kid. So I would just tell you, it doesn't matter whether it's a sport, whether, I have a daughter that is right now is in her last year of medical school, wants to be a surgeon. So we don't have any doctors anywhere in our pedigree. And it's like, wow, that's cool that she's living her dream. I have a daughter right behind me that is an entrepreneur like her father and is helping build companies. And I have a daughter at Pepperdine, and now I have and I have a 9-year-old daughter, and then my 18-year-old son just went to school at Cal State Fullerton and to play baseball, and he has dreams to play Major League Baseball, and it's crazy because I remember growing up in the shadow of my father and the opinions of other people saying, you're not like your dad, what are you going to do when you don't make it? But here my son is, where his grandfather was a legend with the New York Yankees, and then his dad was a pitcher, and his uncle was a pitcher, and his uncle's a pitching coach. But the neatest thing about the kid is he's not a pitcher.
Yeah.
He's going to Cal State Fullerton to play baseball, and he's a shortstop. And he's truly paving his own path in a sport we've all loved. And I know he's got big dreams, big aspirations. And I remember sitting down with him, you talked about what does it take? And I sat down with him 3 years ago, and I go, look, if you really want to do this. And I asked him, I said, do you really want to? He goes, Dad, that's what I want. I go, well, here's the path. And I go, here's what it's going to take. And I remember telling him that, it's not about taking ground balls at practice with your team practice. It's how many ground balls are you going to take outside of team practice. And that very year, that kid wore me out because I hit him over 50,000 ground balls 3 years ago. But it was 3 years ago that set him on the path and road to be able to go play D1 baseball. So I always say, people have these dreams and these wants. My question would be, are you willing to do what's necessary to achieve the dream? And it's about work ethic.
Yeah. And I think that's in anything. I think a lot of people in medicine, I have a lot of physician friends, obviously, and colleagues and family members, my husband, my brother, my sister-in-law, my other, tons of doctors, right? It's like the Indian thing to do, right? But so many people in my community, in our community, hate their jobs. And unfortunately, that's the problem with medicine today and most jobs, right? You often, and what they say to me is, I go to my job so that I can retire early, pay my bills, do something fun when I get home. And I always think to myself, like, what a horrible existence. Like, I know to each their own, right? But imagine going through the majority of your day, the majority of your life, pretty much on autopilot or not really loving what you do, just to do what you love to do for an hour or two after work or on the weekends, and then kind of start the nightmare all over again. And I know it's such a common thing for so many people, and especially in the medical world. And I knew that there's going to have to be something that changes for both, physicians and for people outside of it. So I love that you said that, because you really do have to love what you do. Yeah. I mean, there's going to be hard times, and there's going to be, I'm going through challenges in my business that are like so many growing pains that I'll talk to you about some other time, but lots and lots of growing pains, not pretty, emotional, hiring, firing, things that are not great all the time, but I just love it. I love every day. And even with those challenges, I love it. So I think it's really important to find something that you'll do, even if it wasn't making money, if it wasn't, you're off the clock, you'll still do it. And if you find something that you are doing that with, then that's kind of the right path.
So you can love what you do, but that doesn't mean you're going to love everything that you have to do to have that career, right? There's going to be there's going to be some tough times, and there's going to be some things you have to do where you're going to be like, wow, this sucks. I have to go do this. But you have to go do that thing that sucks so that you can have the thing that you love. And then, I'll just touch on this for a second. Listen, I retired at 37 and from Major League Baseball. And I didn't know what I was going to do next. I had to reinvent. And, and I think about that. That was 22 years ago. I'm still reinventing.
That's nice.
And it's like, but I get passionate about something, and I think to myself, it's like, why not go do it, right? But to work, and it's kind of like the old American way. We're told, go to school, get a good job, work 40 years, and retire. Geez, that sucks. Or at least that's my perspective. It's like, so I retired once at 37, and I remember being like 6-8 months into it. We traveled all over the place and took the kids in different places, but I remember waking up going like, who am I? what am I going to do? And it's like, you can only drop the kids, go work out, go play golf, go pick the kids up, have dinner, go to bed. You can only do that so many days without becoming just bored, silly with your life.
I mean, there are people who do that.
And and maybe they love it though.
Yeah.
So I'm not, saying that, hey, that's wrong, but for me, it's like retirement. I'm never going to retire again. Like when it's time for me to move on from earth and go to heaven, it's like, I'm working until then. Like I'm going to do everything I can to, and hopefully knock on wood somewhere. It's like, and with your help, right?
It'll be 110.
Yeah.
At least. Yeah.
Not only to 110, actually my number is 120.
Okay.
But not only to live there, but to function.
Yeah. That's the point.
Because, unfortunately, our family history is me watching people with cancer never make it out of a hospital bed. And it's like, that sucks, right? That really sucks. And it's kind of like, hey, I want to live as long as I can and want to be able to function and want to be able to work and get outside and take the walks and do all the things. And it's kind of like, and I've thought about it. And, I think when you get older, you start thinking about it. My whole goal today is to live as long as I can because I want to be around for my kids and grandkids and future grandkids. I don't have any grandkids yet, but I'm counting on them. But
wow, no pressure.
No pressure. But, and I want to be around for them, and I want to watch them and I want to watch them work and watch their lives and that whole thing. And then, somewhere between 110 and 120, just go to sleep and peacefully move on.
Yeah.
Not the hospitals, the drugs, the chemos, all of this crap that goes, so, that's why I think, one of the reasons we appreciate you so much, because it's not just about healthy today, but it's about living a life of longevity where we can enjoy our health so we can enjoy our family, so we can enjoy the kids and the grandkids and enjoy our lives. So we're appreciative to you.
Well, on that note, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank everybody who's watching and listening. Check out the HHH drink. There'll be all the links will be here. We'll put the link for your training program for Koibita Poke for more information about you. We want your feedback, so please check it out. Give us your feedback and join us for next time. Thanks for watching. It's a Save Yourself podcast.